Marcus Kroek is a business coach, profit-first professional, and entrepreneur with over 40 years of experience helping business owners take control of their finances and build profitable, stress-free businesses. In this podcast, you'll get real-world strategies and practical insights to grow, increase profits, and create financial stability. Whether you're a tradie, a startup, or an established entrepreneur, Marcus's straightforward approach will help you build a thriving business. This is Business Unlocked.
Hello, I'm here today at, thank God it's Fridays, in Tuggerah on the central coast of New South Wales. And I'm with another one of my great friends, a dear man, Ignatius Mendonca, who's the owner of Thank God It's Fridays. I've known Iggy for 20 years. He's had a number of businesses over the years, as well as working as a franchise consultant for some of Australia's largest franchises and a business coach along the way. So lots and lots of experience to bring with us today. Ignatius, welcome along to the podcast show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's lovely to have you here today. So what we're trying to do with this is let people know about your lessons in business. As part of what I'm doing is interviewing business owners, some coaches, some consultants along the way to help other people out there learn about what makes a difference in their business and their life, of course, because it's all part of the same thing. First thing that comes to mind, biggest lesson, biggest idea that people need to have in order for their business to flourish.
You started out by saying that I've done a lot of different things in life with business coaching, having worked as a franchisee and as a franchise consultant. One of the lines that comes to mind with us when we were doing business coaching is that it doesn't matter what industry it is, it's just like how the Porsche was built on the chassis of a V-dump.
Yes.
And I think any business you go, the fundamentals still remain the same. The industries might change and the examples change, but the fundamental principles of business still remain the same. I still think that we are in business to make profit.
Yes.
You make profit by increasing your sales and controlling your costs. And that seems like a very simple equation.
Sounds like a simple idea, doesn't it?
It is. But part and parcel of that is there are a lot of other complexities that come along the way, which if you can master them, that's when you have a successful business or a successful business person. And that then also affects your personal life. So that's what my belief is, yeah.
The fundamentals have to be in place. So that's like building a house or cooking a meal. If the foundations aren't right, the rest of it just isn't going to work. And even if it looks good on the outside, which might be the case with many businesses, many families, it all looks good on the outside. If the foundations aren't there, eventually it's going to crumble.
Yes.
What one of those foundations for you?
Over the years, what I've realized is, and that's probably because I'm a people person, so I look for things that are relationship-based.
Yes.
I think in any business, there are 4 relationships that you need to master. The first relationship is with yourself as the person. The second relationship is with your team, the people who work for you.
Yeah.
The third relationship would be with probably the people who interact with the business directly, like suppliers. Yeah. And the fourth one, which is the most important one, is your relationship with your end consumer, customer, or guest, whichever you bought. If you can master those 4 relationships, I think you could run any business.
Yeah, that's interesting. On another podcast, I was talking to Julie Goodwin, and we were talking about in MasterChef how Matt, the judge, when she won MasterChef, was a story man. He wanted the story behind it. And I also said he needs the story of his own experience. So you've got to build their client story with you, sort of.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
If you think about it, all the different experiences that I've had, and it's not something that I've developed new. These concepts and principles have always been there. And I've learned them through either experiencing them myself, or seeing somebody else go through that experience, or somebody tell me about somebody else's experience, whether that's having a chat to people like you or reading a book, listening to a podcast. But I think you learn from other people's experiences, and life isn't long enough for us to learn by making all the mistakes ourselves.
Right.
So you've got to learn from other people's mistakes and experiences in a way. So when I talk about those 4 relationships, one of the relationships which is with me in itself, as an I, the person, we did this formula many years ago about the be, do, have, which is all of us know what we want to have. We know what we got to do so that we can have what we want, what most people fall down at is, who do we need to be? And so for me, I think I look at that, how do I focus on myself and improve me as a person, as a business person, as a parent? And that's the B part of it. So in business, one of the big ones I've learned is discipline. To be disciplined is about...
So when you're talking about being, like, as a business person, it's a part of that definition might be, what are the characteristics of a business person that I need to have?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
One of the ones that I had to work on was me being disciplined on what I need to do every day.
Yeah.
So keeping a diary, as in making sure that my appointments were right. I had a to-do list. What are the things that I needed to achieve today? Part and parcel of that is also slotting in time for the gym or sport. I love playing badminton, doing that. Family time, all those things need to be slotted in. And then I need to be disciplined enough to follow that through. Now, it never happens that I'm on top of it 100% of the time. However, as long as it's there, I know what I can come back to if I'm off the rails. So that's mainly the relationship with myself that I talk about.
What are the areas where the discipline seems easy and the discipline seems hard?
So the things that you enjoy doing, the discipline is very easy. So
Right.
if I know I've got badminton to play at 6 in the evening, I'm ready there at 5 o'clock because I enjoy doing it. But then you have to sit down and do your accounts. You've got to balance your books. You've got to look at paying the bills. To me, that's a monotonous job.
Right.
And therefore, I need to have the discipline to sit down on the Tuesday morning, the 2 hours that I need to be able to do that. But then I also use that as a motivation for me because I don't like doing that. I need to be successful enough where I can pay somebody else to do it. So that becomes my motivation to work harder on building the business so that then I can pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah. And for me, as I explore that, I'd say there's also a connection to what you value, what you believe in, and the discipline of badminton, that you value your health, you still play that with your wife.
Yes.
So you value that relationship. It's a way of connecting with one another. Does that make the discipline easier there? So it's not just pure enjoyment. I'm saying there's actually a bit deeper to it,
Yes.
to connect to.
And I suppose the enjoyment is there in making sure that my relationship is strong with my wife. So
Yeah. I'm saying it's
works
not
out.
just a matter of the dopamine hit of that was
No,
great,
correct.
but if we look at it, there's a bit more, and maybe the same with the bookkeeping. The bookkeeping you still believe in, so you've got to be disciplined to do it, and probably is the belief beyond that what it actually does for you in the business, but it's not something you enjoy. I always say to people, discipline to me means I'm a disciple. I'm following the principles of whatever. So that's what I'm coming back to. It's got to be connected to something.
Yes.
You know, so many people use discipline as meaning punishment. I said, no, punishment is the way that they bring you back to being disciplined, which is following the values.
to me, it's also like when you talk about motivation, and what is the purpose behind it? Like, for
Yes.
instance, bookkeeping, although I don't enjoy doing it, the reason why I definitely want that happening is because when I know my numbers, I know how the business is tracking.
Yeah.
Which means I can catch any issues that are coming up long before they really become a problem for me. And the other one is it motivates me to see the bank balance increasing.
Yes.
Right. And that if I don't do the books, I don't know whether my bank balance is real or not.
Yeah. And the bank balance is, we then go from accounting principles of what financials show us to cash in, cash out.
Yes.
And the financials can sometimes show us one thing. The cash in, cash outs can be a different story.
Correct.
On that, how long are you looking at the financials? When are you looking at the financials?
Because I'm in hospitality and I can look at it on a weekly basis. I know what my target for sales is. I know what my target for the main big costs, which is my cost of goods and my cost of labor. I know those two metrics. I look at it on a weekly basis because I can then adjust them accordingly.
Yep.
And at the end of the month, you look at your total profit and loss because then you bring into play your rent and all the other expenses that come into effect.
So the thing that comes up all the time is KPIs, and I always stress to people, well, they're key performance indicators.
Mm-hmm.
You can monitor 3,000 things in the business, but there's the keys to the business. And so for you, those would be the real key performance indicators?
Yeah, so my 3 key performance indicators are what's my top line sales, what's my cost of goods sitting at, and what's my labor sitting at. So the cost of goods and labor I can control because I can control labor through rosters, while I can control my cost of goods by making sure that I'm not wasting stuff. The sales is mainly because the sales will dictate what percentage my fixed cost, which is my rent, sits at.
Yes.
So if I can increase my sales, my fixed cost, which is my rent, as a percentage drops down, which means my profit increases by that percent, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I look at that as a key performance indicator.
And there's a couple of things in there if we're looking at that, because what we're saying is below the cost of goods theoretically doesn't change from week to week.
Yeah.
So if you're working on those items that actually give you your margin in what you're doing, that's where you can make the gains or the losses.
Correct.
The sales, a lot of the time people focus on revenue and other people criticize it as you shouldn't do that. I'm like you, I say, well, it's all just maths. So the sales are a perfectly good indicator as long as you know the maths that happens underneath it and the numbers that happen underneath it. I was like that in the last business we had. We looked at revenue and we knew there was a margin that we wanted to hit. Yeah. And if we were hitting that margin, all was good.
And that's where it comes down to. So when I say cost of goods, because in hospitality, that's what you're looking at is your food cost and your beverage cost, right? So that I know if I'm making money over and above this amount of sales, as long as my cost of goods and my labor is at this percentage, I know I'm making money.
And the other thing then as I said, on those other items, like the fixed expenses to rent in a place like this, it's a big store.
Yeah.
It's in a Westfield shopping centre. It's not costing you $20 a week to be here. We're not saying you don't know those numbers. In fact, you're very, very aware of them. But from week to week, you can't change how much rent you pay.
Yeah.
And I imagine things like the electricity are fairly constant as well in what they do. So it's those other items, and that's what people have to identify then in their business. What are the items I can change to make a difference?
So to me, I look at that from a sports analogy. It's like looking at a scoreboard.
Yeah.
That dictates how you're going to play the game. So if I'm ahead by 10 goals, I can substitute them with my junior players to give them the opportunity to do all that, right? Yeah. But if I'm struggling to catch up with the opponent, then it's a question of what's my strategy now? Do I put in my best players in place? Do I go on the offensive? Do I go on the defensive? That entire strategy is dictated by what the scorecard is showing.
Yeah, it's no good waiting to the end of the game and then going, by the way, how did we do? Yeah. Which is people going to see their accountant once a year. But it's actually the role I play a lot of the time, or a CFO, my colleagues from Profit First. What we're doing is being that person.
Correct.
That is looking at the scoreboard and then helping them decide on the strategy to get the win.
Yep.
Basically. Yep. So to do that. All right. So there's the relationships, number one. I'd like to come back to that customer relationships. And I think the other thing to stress here, and I keep saying it over and over and again, it comes from a man called Tony Mowbray, who we both saw talk years ago, an Australian who sailed around the world single-handed. And he was in the Sydney to Hobart where there were the unfortunate deaths, 100-foot waves. But a fantastic talk on his life, his journey through doing all of those things. And he talked about the examples might change, but the principles remain the same. So what we're saying is, well, here's some examples from different businesses. The principles there to adopt into your own business and life.
Yeah.
So the relationship in a business like this where you're serving people, they're coming in, sitting down, getting a meal, leave. How do you build that relationship?
Although it looks like they come in for a meal, but it's an occasion that they're celebrating. Whether even if it's just a question of coming in and having a meal with their partner, whether it's about getting away from the drudgery of cooking at home and coming out and have. So there's a reason bigger than just sitting down there and eating food or getting nutrition into your body. And that's where I think the relationships can be built. Understanding people just by having a conversation with them, you get to know what's going on for them. And then you can build that further. The thing that I'm very focused on is that the experience that they have here should not take away from the bigger experience that they have come here for. So if they're celebrating their wedding anniversary, we shouldn't do anything that takes away from that celebration.
What might take away from that celebration?
How long does the food take to come to them?
Okay.
Is the food warm enough? That's just the basic stuff. Yeah? Is the food at the right temperature? Have you given them the drinks?
So that can take away and add to the experience.
Correct. So if you look at it, it works both ways. So anything that you can stop from taking away from their experience will add to their experience as well. It needs to be a clean environment for them to sit here, and there's no cobwebs around underneath the table or chewing.
You're not getting bitten by a redback while we're sitting here having dinner.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah. So then when it comes to the team, if you want your customers to build a relationship with you, and in hospitality business, you want them coming back.
Yes.
We actually want that in every business.
Yeah.
Training the staff, getting them on the page, then has got to be more than you're here to deliver a plate to the table.
Absolutely. You just said, Tony Mowbray spoke about the examples change, principles remain the same. Many years ago, we spoke about, any business competes on three things. What's the point of difference between us and the others? And we saw iPhone, then you had Samsung came in, which was as good as that. So technology, it doesn't take too long for the competitor to copy what you've got.
Yeah. That's what I call table stakes. I might be ahead on the hand, but you can catch up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got your after-sales support that you provide in that. Again, no matter how great your support is, somebody else can catch up with that as well. To me, the point of difference comes in is where service. And I think service is, sky is the limit. You can go to the umpteenth degree and you can still not be enough, but you can be better than everybody else. And for somebody to copy that is not that easy. And even if they do, you can still have to go up one more notch or two more notches. So one of the things I always say to my guys is, guys, make every decision in the favor of the guest.
Yes, okay.
Right? Now, I've heard a lot of people saying the customer's always right. It's not true. It's not
the full quote,
right?
It's the customer is always right in the matter of taste, which means their taste is always their taste. So one take on it.
So my question is always, how many of those do we get where we disagree with in comparison?
Sure.
It'll be 1%. And am I going to worry about that 1% when I can look after the 99 and they're happy? And even that 1% who comes in, and I know I can never satisfy everybody. It just won't happen. But at least I make the effort to do that.
Yeah.
I've had situations where people have come in and said, I don't like the taste of this. And I've given them a new product. Sure. And the team's gotten upset with me to say that product was perfectly fine because, the kitchen takes pride in cooking.
That's a perfect example, though, of the customer is right in the case of taste.
Correct.
It wasn't to their taste.
Correct. Whichever way it is, right? And so for me, what I'm saying is I don't want to take away from the experience. So I want to nullify that, take it away. And so it's not about whether I'm right or not, whether my steak was right or not, whether it was seasoned correctly or not. That's not the point. The point is, do I get you out of here happy or not?
Yeah, and that's, in doing that, whilst it might be a negative to start with that you're coming from, there's actually a chance, an opportunity to build a great relationship from how you serve people.
Correct. In the various businesses that I've been, I've found that the difficult people become your raving fans.
Yes.
If you can handle it correctly, they come back. More often than other people would come back. They spend a lot more money with you because there's a level of trust that they have nowadays.
Yeah. And so then if we take that principle from your example and transfer it, if we've got the electrician going out to fix a PowerPoint at home, how do we transfer it to that spot?
I think electricians are a prime example. Or you look at this as a tradie, you go in there. First and foremost, what's the negative about a tradie? They're never on time. They leave the place dirty.
So my 3 necessities of niche we'll get to on a full episode at some time.
So if you can just do that, is be there on time. That's the first thing. Finish the work properly, clean it up. And I heard this somewhere else where the guy says they used to do, I think, security alarms for those people. And their thing was that once you've done that, you look for one little thing which is outside your purview of work and do that. Like, for instance, the door is squeaking. You put the oil on that door and tell the person, look, I've just fixed this for you. And that's fine. And you go over and beyond. And that's what I'm saying, to keep the customer, the guest happy.
Leave it. My 3 necessities of niche were turn up on time, do the job properly, leave it better than you found it.
That's it.
And I remember talking to one of our old clients, and he talked about building his business. So he's an electrician, said if we're in the room fixing the PowerPoint down there, but the light switch is dirty, we clean the light switch because you're going to get blamed for it. And I had that with the landscaper I worked with. He implemented that. He said, if you're on the site at the end of the day, he's there for multiple days as a landscaper, and one of your subbies leaves a Coke can and a wrapper, you're getting the blame for
Yes.
this. Leave it there. So that's a daily thing. If you should be cleaning that site, but you don't want subcontractors who leave a mess, but you should be cleaning that site as well, because then the people might not even realise what you've done for the day, but they're also not getting that negative of these bloody landscapers. So great opportunities to build relationships there with the team. And you talk about team, you don't talk about staff. It's a concept that we have, which sometimes gets a bit overused, this team idea. How do you build relationships with the team, which I imagine then leads to them actually being a team, not just staff?
One of my philosophies has always been is to buy an existing business.
Yes.
I very seldom go into a new one. I've done that only once. When I go into an existing business, I can see what it does. I know what I can do to improve it.
Yeah.
So part of that is you inherit the team which is already there. And invariably I've found is 80% of that team in the first 6 months will leave.
Okay.
And they leave mainly not because I'm a draconian boss. It is just that my way of running a business and my principles and my values just don't align with theirs. Mm-hmm. And they shake hands and move on because they can't cope with that. And I find that also works with is the people who do stay and the ones which we get in afterwards, who join the team later on, it's their value systems that are aligned with ours, because of which then what happens is they attract more of the same kind. And that's how we build a team.
What would be an example of a value?
So one of the value systems like I have is the guest comes first. Drop everything for the guest. Make every decision in the favor of the guest. So when you have those two things in place, if a person comes in and orders an item and they don't like it, we replace it free of charge. It's simple.
Yeah.
I've had situations where you and I have gone to a restaurant and sat down and that person's giving you attitude just because you said, I don't want this, I want the other item. Yeah. Or they have a system where
it's like you're imposing on them for asking them to give you something from their restaurant.
Like the prime example is there's a meal deal. You get the main course and a drink with it. Great. But part and parcel of that is that we ordered the drink before and then we ordered the meal, and the person comes to say to me is, I can't give you the drink part of the meal because you ordered it before. I'm not supposed to know that.
Yes.
Right? So either you should have informed me that before, or you can fix it. It's not too hard to fix it and they can fix it. So why give me lip?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff.
It's not policy.
It's not policy. Simple. You just word towards keeping the guest happy. Don't worry about the policy. We can bend the policy if we need to.
Yeah.
And that works. Now, sometimes some people take advantage of it, but I look at it and think in the bigger picture. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, you can either lose you as a client because of the way you were treated.
Yep.
Or it's the real cost on the day probably isn't that much in the scheme of things.
$1, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Even $10 is not worth it.
And that value by itself means that somebody quite clearly knows without saying they're not meant to be sitting there on their phone, because if the guest comes first and the guest is meant to, if there's a problem, fix it, well, you can't be on your phone and having the guest come first.
Correct.
So, if the relationship with the client can be from leave it better than you found it, like do more than the mere expectation.
Yes.
We want to leave them delighted, not just satisfied.
Correct.
It's one of the things we talk about. Anything else that they can do?
One of the statements people make is under promise and over deliver, right?
Yes.
We are not under promising because there is a promise here that this is what we're going to give you, but then we over deliver.
Yeah.
So that's where we are at.
Yeah. So the under promise can be taken wrongly as do the bare minimum type idea. It's no. We want you to have a good promise, and then we want you to go beyond that with what you do.
Look, there are businesses which do that extremely well. I'll give you the example of Apple. I had a new iPad. It slipped out of my hands and it hit the desk and it cracked. It wasn't even a week old. I went back to Apple and I said to them, this is what actually happened. I explained to them, my fault completely. If I have to fix it, pay for it, that's fine. He took it away and gave me a new one.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when I went back home, my wife says to me, she says, Iggy, you fall into the proverbial and you come out smelling like roses.
You've got a habit of doing that.
But the point is, one, I wasn't making things up to get a free one. I told them the truth, but they looked after me from that point of view. And the number of people I've told that story to, that they've gone over and above. I am not a fan of Apple. I don't use Apple products. I use Samsung most of the time because I find it easy to work with. but I'm still praising Apple for what they did for me.
Isn't that interesting?
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Have the values in your business would be one of those things.
Yes.
Build relationships. Everything is relationships ultimately, which might be in danger from our digital world a bit. We've got to figure out how to do that. So build relationships with your customers, with your team, with all the people that you deal with, and think about how you implement that into your business, basically.
So having the values is one thing. Living the values is the other.
Yeah, you can't just have them stuck on a wall. Again, something I talked about with Julie, and I'm going to be talking with Mix in one of the other episodes, talking about their team and code of honor and how it's not just something that we developed and stuck on the wall and forgot about. It's an everyday part of the business, comes up in their team meetings each week. It's who are we being as a business, as you said, which comes from you. Cool. All right, mate. Well, thank you so much for coming along. I'm sure people have taken a lot away from that. I'm going to come and see you another time and learn some more lessons from you. Thank you, Ignatius.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.